That's not it.
Hello and welcome everybody to Proving Grounds Round 5 of the lower bracket, where Immortals Academy and Golden Guardians Academy are getting prepared right now for their lower bracket runs. One of their runs will end today. The other will continue moving on in the lower bracket to the lower bracket finals and play up against Team Liquid Academy. I'll be your host for the day. You can call me Kangas, joined by the big-brained Mad Magical and the even bigger-brained Coco the Dragon. Sorry, Mad Magical. Had to do you dirty like that. But welcome to the desk, gentlemen. Mad Magical, I'll give it to you first. Initial thoughts on the series of the day and any retort that you have for my intro for you.
Well, at least I'm bigger brained than you, first off. But
Well,
second
that's
off,
a given. Yeah.
yeah, that's a given. But second off, I'm just excited because this is the series with two teams that have run the gauntlet. And who could be more hyped with that? Two teams, only one can now continue their run in the Proving Grounds, and they've both gone from losing their first best of three all the way to here.
The narrative writes itself, man. It's insane. Coco, thoughts on the series right off the bat? What are you most excited for going into today's games? It is a do-or-die situation indeed. I'm hearing that we might have a production issue with one of your audios in VMix, so hopefully we'll sort that out here. But let's take a look while we're doing that at the bracket itself, because of course we do need to catch up. This is the game that we have today, a best-of-5 series between these two teams. But let's look at how they got to this point, because both of them, like we said, had to run the lower bracket. Each one of these teams got knocked out in their first round of the bracket. So if production can pull that up, let's catch everybody up to speed. In case you're just joining us right now, of course, you know, if you have watched these teams' journey along the way to this point, understandable for sure. But as we look at it, obviously, Immortals Academy, they wanted to show up huge in this tournament with two of the defending champions from Spring. We do have Anda and Viper coming in here. But this is the bracket that they're going to be running forward. Okay, it looks like we're just looking at the forward bracket here. So
Hey,
the winner will be going up
finals.
against Team Liquid.
You know what,
That's
okay.
where they'll show up.
But Coco, you know what? I'm just going to say the reason why your mic was muted was mostly because it already knew that I was truly the bigger brain. So there's my full retort. I've gone full circle on this one. But I do want to just even kind of go more in depth on this and just talk about where each of these teams that you can see here, this is the full bracket to really show the journey they have taken. You look over towards Golden Guardians Academy and their journey, look at the teams they have knocked out. FlyQuest Academy, one of the top teams we had seen in the summer season. Then Cloud9 Academy, the number 2 seed, the number 1 amateur team in Wildcard Red. This team is on a tear.
It's absolutely insane. Every single Wednesday for TSM has actually been a seed upset for this team coming in here. And Immortals, 2-0 over Zeus, then 2-1 over Evil Geniuses, also a tough opponent. Resolve, and then Dignitas. Dignitas is the big heavy hitter on that side of the bracket they were able to take down. I had actually had Dignitas as my dark horse going into this tournament. Coco, I know that you and I actually kind of agreed on that a little bit. So, yeah, I think it's cool just tracking the stories of these two teams, how they got to this point. But let's dive a little bit deeper and talk about each one individually. Now, we're going to start off with Golden Guardians. Magical, I'm going to be giving this one back to you here. Talk to me about Golden Guardians. What should we expect from this team going into this best of 5?
Well, when we look at Golden Guardians, when they've had the most success is when they play to try to scale up into the game. They love to build around late-game compositions. And you look at what they've been drafting as of late. Niles onto Ornn. His gangplank is always something that is terrorizing top lane. You've got the Viego. You've got Kindred for Rosethorn. Rise for Yunbi that has not been allowed for quite some time. It has been permanently banned away from him because they understand when he has that champion, this is one of those champions he has had historic success on, going years back. Pretty much the entire time we've seen him in Academy has been his Rise, terrorizing everyone.
And on top of just the top lane champ pool, Golden Guardians Academy, they have a history of making these lower bracket runs, right? Magical, we're looking at their history. They've done this a couple of times in the past, and this seems to be their comfort zone when they're considered kind of on the back foot, and technically the lowest seeded team remaining in Proving Grounds, coming in at 12th seed. but don't let that fool you. They are still a threat. Let's bring it to the other side now. Coco, I want to bring the conversation to you. Immortals Academy. Intro this team, how they're looking, what we should expect from them in a best of 5.
Well, yeah, we of course had the addition of Viper and Onda during the summer split, and they've just made an absolute splash in this team style ever since. And you can see it, even though going into the lower bracket now, they've faced a lot of versatile styles in their opponents. Resolves, Dignitas Academy, as you mentioned, and that's put that challenge into learning those styles and adapting on the fly. And that is where I think Immortals Academy will be able to conquer the more dominable, like, individual matchups that Golden Guardians Academy is bringing to the table today.
Right, and honestly, I even want to just go back to what you were talking about earlier, Steve, is that Viper and Anda are the defending champions. They're the only ones that are defending a title here going into this, having been a part of No Org and their historic success back in spring, now in Academy, and proving everyone, hey, they can not only run the gauntlet and be this impressive team, but I just like to look at the series that they had previously against Dignitas Academy, where they had lost. That was the team that had knocked them down into the lower bracket initially, and they lost 2-0. It was pretty handedly sided towards Dignitas, who had been on a hot streak themselves going back to the qualifiers. So the fact that they were able to bounce back from that, run the gauntlet all the way to rematch against Dignitas, and then beat them, and now are in the top 4, knocking on the door to get into the top 3.
And they're right at the precipice, because 2 more best of 5s, and there's a chance that Anda and Viper have that opportunity to defend their championship title. That would be massive for this team, for these players in particular, and catching up with Jensen ahead of the games, their coach for the Academy team. No correlation to LCS player Jensen. This is Academy coach Jensen from Immortals. He said that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. That's what this season has been for them for the first half of the season, for the first half of the split, rather, for summer split. They didn't even have everybody on site. Now everyone's here, and now is their opportunity to prove, in his words, this is a core that LCS teams should be looking at to draft an LCS roster around. So that's a high caliber to put yourself at right there as a coach. But now stylistically, Coco, I'm going to bring it back to you. Immortals, how do they play their games? And in particular, can you identify any key carries that we need to be keeping our eyes out for in this series?
I'll touch back on that quote from Jensen that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Well, unfortunately for them, their playstyle is much more of a sprint because they need to finish these games early and they need to get those early leads online fast and locked in because, as he loves to mention, it's a 1-1-3 style. It's all about the math here for himself and lane assignments to get that side lane control and then be able to create sort of a pincer maneuver into the mid lane and win pressure through those kind of formations. And to that end, it's great because then you can highlight all of these individual players to surround LCS styles for themselves and advertise them to get into those higher seeded positions and into different teams. The only issue is that it can be very flaky and it's a high risk, high reward factor of being on your own, setting up those individual styles that are spread across the map, spreading those resources thin, and then grouping them up at the right time, very precisely.
And that's something I think that Immortals have struggled with occasionally, getting everybody on the same page at the same time. Sometimes it does feel like their playstyle is a little staggered, but you're right. Early game to mid game. That's where I see Immortals being strongest. And Magical, you had already mentioned that the later the game goes, the stronger Golden Guardians kind of ramp up. This seems to be where they get comfortable in the games. But with that, it doesn't even mean that their early game is weak. So when you're looking at this matchup between the two, in your opinion, Magical, do we favor either one of these styles, and how do you see them interacting with each other?
The thing is, for me, it comes down to draft, right? I talked about it a little bit earlier, and I know Smax is really going to be able to dive in deep when we get into Champion Select on these two teams and the stylistic differences. But to me, that's where it will boil down to. Which comfort champions are they going to get counterpicked? I honestly think red side is going to be a really important factor going into this game. A lot of people think blue side might be the one that everyone needs to focus on, but I expect counter matchups, especially when we look at top side. I mentioned before that Niles, he's been playing that Ornn, he's been playing the Gangplank, but we look over on the flip side. Viper has played a lot of Camille, which Niles has a confident counter pickup that he's played a lot of times already here in the Proving Grounds in that Pantheon.
I do agree with you in the sense that draft and pickups are very important, but you have to think of not only just how you can succeed in a game of League of Legends, but also in cooking and baking in general. Time and precision. They need to have the correct movements with the correct rotations and lane assignments for both Golden Guardians and for Immortals Academy in their own play styles to really execute on it. For Immortals, get those early lanes rolling and get that pincer maneuver online. Where Golden Guardians Academy is be patient, punish the mistakes that Immortals makes, and then late game scale and allow Niles to be that shot caller that he loves to be.
Gogo, if I knew you were going to make that analogy, we could have made some kind of like baking show, baked into this run of show.
You made a cake for one of our boys just this week, so it's like there's just cake smell all around the house right now. So
I don't
you
get
gotta
a
bring it
cake.
up
What's
sometime.
up with this? I want cake.
Desterex, I still have your cake in a Tupperware in the fridge, but that's beside the point. The match ahead of us, we're getting ready for pick and ban. I'm hearing that the teams are preparing, so we will be sending it to Jolly and Smacks shortly. But before we round up here, I want to put pen on paper and actually give our thoughts on this series, who's going to win it. So, prediction time. Coco, I'm going to give it back to you. We'll go reverse order on the desk. Who do you have taking the series, and what's the score going to be?
Well, for this one, it all depends on how long those games take. You know, for me, myself, I feel like the faster that the meta is, the better it is for Immortals, and I think that is what's going to be happening today. Immortals is going to be able to take 3-1 against Golden Guardians Academy, but they still have some hiccups that they need to make up for that allows Golden Guardians to take a win off of them in the series.
Okay, so you're still favoring the higher seeded team. You think that there's going to be a chance that they can get that repeat finals appearance from Anda and Viper? I like it. Magical, you got the teams behind you. Point, which way we going?
I will write down my predictions here.
Okay, all right, let's see it. Magical's very, visual with his predictions.
3-2.
Oh!
I'm going 3-2 in my predictions on this one, and I'm going with Golden Guardians. They have knocked out some of the highest seeded teams in the lower bracket, and I don't think they're done. I think they're going to continue this. I think it's going to be a close series between these two. I think we're going the distance in 5 games.
Okay.
But I give the edge over to Golden Guardians just barely.
You and Cage. Cage was on the desk yesterday, and he said the same thing. So I don't know why. Maybe it's just the synergy that you two have developed over the years. But does it mean anything that the color you wrote 3 and 2 is the Immortals color and not the Golden Guardians color? Because that's kind of tripping me out right now.
No. This is blue. This is the
that's
prediction.
blue.
This is green.
Okay.
That's what this one is. Green.
Okay, good.
Come on.
It's tough to see on screen right there. But there you go. Mad Magical saying 3-2 to Golden Guardians. Coco saying 3-1 to Immortals. Let's see what they bring in game number 1. Jolly and Smacks will be other side of this break to bring us into pick and ban right after this.
All right, we are in it. Thank you so much, Des, for giving us a little bit of a breakdown for this matchup that we have going in today. A best of 5 between Immortals Academy and Golden Guardians Academy. I'm apparently your play-by-play for the day, Jolly, and I am joined here, by the one and only Smacks. And I'm so excited that we get to cast together, Smacks. How are you feeling today?
I'm so excited. We're into this top 4. One of these teams is going to keep moving on tomorrow in another best of 5 against Team Liquid. And one of these teams is going home in 4th. And I can't wait to see which one of these teams will be the one victorious today. We've had already a crazy best of 5 just yesterday in the top 4. And I'm sure that today is going to deliver much the same.
Oh yeah, we're getting right into it, pulling up the draft here and getting through these bans right away. We got Renekton being taken away from Golden Guardians Academy, as well as the Twisted Fate. No big surprise, we've seen such high prio on keeping TF out of these games, if not, really, really high pick selection. So an Orianna as well. So towards the top half of the map is where we're going to see probably a good portion of these. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if we saw some support bans as well as the final lock-ins here. But it's going to be a Xin Zhao as the second for Immortals.
This is pretty different from what I was expecting already, I'd say. I was really assuming that both Ziggs and Ryze were going to be 100% banned throughout this series because both of these bot laners have been perennial Ziggs players throughout the last few months, and Yunbi has been a Ryze player for as long as we've known him in competitive. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the case so far. In fact, for Golden Guardians, they're currently gearing toward a LeBlanc first pick as they have preemptively banned away this Lissandra, the primary counter pick into it.
We've been seeing a lot of the Syndra picked up in response to the LeBlanc. Getting the Scatter of the Week down is huge, especially once you get to the team fight stage, which is what a lot of these teams are going to be looking for, trying to get through that laning phase as quickly as possible. We've also seen a ton of the Camille. No big surprise that Niles, you're not going to be able to get that Gangplank lock-in. But Viper, for the last several games, has done the Camille, and hey, right there, it's going to be Golden Guardians saying, no, we're going to keep that one for ourselves. Probably, in my opinion, currently the best side laner, the best split pusher that the game has to offer in the current meta. And not only that, but a lot of damage availability, plus the Hextech ultimatum to lock down the enemy means you have limited mobility. But no, they're going to hover the Camille. They're actually going to pick the Lee Sin first.
Yeah, switching right off of that, giving Viper the possibility of picking Camille for himself. He did pick in all of the games of their most recent series, so could go back to that and make it 5 in a row for that champion. But like we were saying, I'm expecting some of these really big champions like the Ziggs and the Ryze to come up very shortly. Both of these bot laners are very good at it, and there is one of them already. We're getting the Blue Man group started right away. Pretty is taking away Ryze.
Yeah, Ryze has been huge, and we were talking, we've been talking before the game. We had a little bit to prep. I think global ultimates have been massive and have been a really, really pivotal part of this. Now, while Ryze doesn't have a fully global ultimate, it is somewhat global. It allows for both initiation and disengage, and Pretty has had high priority on that. And, of course, we do have the locking of the Camille, especially with the hover for GGA Academy. They're like, all right, this is not something that we want to give over to Niles here. They picked Rosethorn priority on this one, and IMT has not countered that one yet, so still has the ability to, have a few of these banned out, and that's going to do it. We just talked about it, Smacks. This has been huge for Ziggs, and our anticipation was that we were going to see Ziggs first ban for all of these games, and we actually get to see the locking here for Golden Guardians Academy. They're going to follow it up with the Nautilus as well.
Ooh. Okay, so Prismal is the first bot laner to get the Ziggs, but Keith swiftly responds with this Vayne that he's pulled out at least a few times so far in Proving Grounds. This is a really exciting pick because it combines the safety that you often get from something like a Ziggs and an Ezreal in the lane, but it also provides you with so much teamfight DPS. And you're thinking to yourself, Smacks, what are you talking about? Vayne's not safe. You have to play in melee range. In the lane, you actually have a lot more mobility at your disposal with Tumble than a lot of the other bot laners that we're seeing come into the meta recently. Most notably the Aphelios, which is the most pick ban bot laner in all of Proving Grounds. Vayne actually gets to space out. Oh, well, Varus as well. See, that's another immobile one. So
Varus
you got both of those. Yeah,
I'm so surprised that Varus wasn't locked in here. Varus has had by far one of the highest pick ban rates and a very, very classic first pick, a really, really solid first pick because, I mean, the amount of power that you get from the piercing arrow and also the amount of sustainability with, the hail of arrows, if you're able to actually land the chains of corruption, I have to consider that because as an ADC, It's not, I wouldn't say it's a good 50-50 for myself on landing Chains of Corruption. I gotta say it's lower than that, so I love to see those actually land. And it's not going to be the LeBlanc locked in. While it kind of seemed like Golden Guardians was going for that, Immortals kind of recognizes, hey, the Orianna's locked out. We've already locked in the Rise here, so LeBlanc is not going to be the selection. And the Leona taken. Having the Nautilus locked in there, we've been talking about heavy crowd control champions. So Rakan and Leona, both big initiators, and not something that Golden Guardians wants Immortals to have in their bag.
The support pool for both of these players has been pretty heavily attacked, but most notably, I'd say the Thresh did come through all the way to the second phase. So that could still be an option for Immortals. It doesn't look like it, though. It does look like we are going to be getting the support set into the Nautilus. One of those champions that can really beat up on melee engagers, like this Nautilus, and like Lee Sin as well. You can really put a stop to the Lee Sin insects that could possibly happen from Rosethorn and any other big burst damage that you have. So I do like this response of the set. It does keep Immortals in close quarters, though, and against something like a Ziggs and now a Syndra as well, they might need something to get in onto these frontliners, or onto the backliners as well. I mean, Pantheon is going to be a problem for Immortals now, too. I'm loving this so far.
Certainly is. Yeah, you got even more global ultimates. So not only do you have Prismal with the bomb, you've also got now the Pantheon having the ability. You do have the partial in Rise here. And it... Oh my god. Okay, it's a hover. It's a scary hover. We've been seeing a lot more of the Jarvan, and I love the Jarvan. Allows for a lockdown on a lot of these static mages. You know, Yunbi is going to be a high priority target here for Anda early on in this game. With this matchup on the top side, you can anticipate that it's going to be pretty much just kind of do your guys' thing. When we get the chance, we'll pop up there. But definitely getting some prio here towards the mid side, trying to get pretty as jacked up as possible so that if they get to the late game, they have so much scaling available with the Vayne, with the Rise there. The Camille's going to be able to continuously split these side lanes. So Golden Guardians, while I love both of these compositions. They're very much reactionary. You know, the first couple of picks maybe not so much, but I mentioned the Syndra has been a big pick into the Rise, so even banning themselves out somewhat, having the Lissandra taken away there works out for Golden Guardians. There's quite a bit of AP damage coming through, so we're gonna have to see a lot of damage coming out of both Rosethorn and Niles on this one. And if Immortals are gonna be able to shut those guys down, it might lead to a scary late game for Golden Guardians.
I think this Jarvan is exactly the kind of champion that I wanted to see from Anda in that spot too, because it does do wonders to bridge the gap between these frontline, close quarters damage members of Immortals and get into that backline onto the Syndra, onto the Ziggs. It even has a nice interaction with the already selected champions like the Rise and the Vayne, because Rise want everyone to be in close quarters with all of your damage, and you can interact very nicely with the Cataclysm for that and for Vayne Condemn. You can have Jarvan jump on somebody and then condemn them right away. They get knocked away against that Cataclysm wall. So some really cool stuff going on for Immortals. They have a lot of lockdown now, and they will have to use that quite well so they don't get outranged by the Ziggs.
I have a feeling this game is going to start out pretty heavy for me, especially play-by-play, with the amount of aggression and initiation that both of these teams come through here, though. We're not going to make you guys wait and listen to us chit-chat. We are going to take a very quick break, and when we come back, we will be getting right into game number 1 in this best of 5 between Golden Guardians Academy and Immortals Academy on Proving Grounds. we are hopping right into things again. I'm Jolly, joined here by the wonderful Smacks, and we're just kicking off this best of 5 with some pretty incredible compositions. Again, feel like my job is going to be relatively hard as this game starts out based on just the amount of initiation and damage both of these compositions are going for. They're both pulling for early game here, though you got to consider that Immortals has a lot of scaling and late game ability if it does get to that point.
We know that both of these junglers really like to get the party started very early on into the game. Both the players and the champions of Lee Sin and Jarvan, you're really wanting to get those ganks off very early, and I think that's exactly what we can expect out of a game like this. You have a lot of skirmishing power in the mid lane and the top lane. It's just not quite all there in bot, so I think the island playstyle that we sometimes end up seeing from both Prismal and Keith will be pretty key for them in this one.
Yeah, that has been the meta for AD carry. It almost doesn't feel like AD carry anymore. You're just your bot. They appropriately renamed it bot because it's like
Prismal isn't even playing AD, so
exactly. Yeah, you're not gonna be, not just because of that, but you're also not gonna be that big carry that used to be the case even in the last couple of seasons where ADCs could really pop off and do tons of damage. Now that you've got a big resurgence in a lot of these static mages, also in some of the the assassins that have been popping up here, it's been way more difficult to actually prioritize this bottom side. So we've been seeing a lot of that. Less of an island in the top lane, which is absolutely insane to me. Part of the reason I stopped playing top lane was because it was so dang boring towards the beginning, but that is absolutely not the case coming into this current meta. I mean, but a lot of self-sustainability in the top side right now for Viper and Niles with the selections that they have locked in.
Viper and Niles are the two top laners in all Proving Grounds that I would say are the least boring, probably, especially with these champions. But I think we're going to see a lot more creativity even from just those two players throughout this tournament, or throughout this series, I should say. We have seen it already in this tournament. This is the second Pantheon pick for Niles. The previous time he picked it was a response to the dive threat of Camille and Nidalee that was picked against him, and it allowed him to survive through all those ganks thanks to the Aegis shield. So I like this as a response, and as you pointed out in the draft as well, it gives Golden Guardians that global power that they were otherwise lacking because the Twisted Fate was banned away.
Yup. So we got two abilities now, and this is kind of the anticipation with this lane. The Nautilus and the Ziggs are going to be pressured pretty heavily. That's going to force Newbie to stay towards this lane and not allow for a lot of early roam. And of course, Joey being a set and Joey being Joey is going to be looking for some early roam, likely to throw, I was going to say some aggressive vision potentially here, but already looking to try to maybe make a move towards the top side, go help out Anda. The pings coming through already. Golden Guardians are like, hey, what just happened to the bottom lane? They're gone already.
Yeah. They're able to freeze this lane, so Keith is going to miss out on a couple of minions, as is Joey, but just moving around and trying to scope out where Rosethorn actually is and cover potentially Anda. He has found Rosethorn now. They are punching each other to death, so seen some slight action there, yeah.
A little bit. It's not exciting enough for observation to adjust over there. Just a little bit of back and forth, but it is going to be a scuttle aside. Actually, I can't see. I know I saw the scuttle move back. I'm pretty certain that it was Immortals that made it. Oh, well, it definitely is since it was just showing Fog of War for Golden Guardians.
Yeah.
Ooh, good start to the game already today. But that's what we're going to expect from Joey throughout this entire game. Roaming as soon as it is possible. As soon as this lane gets pressured in, since they do have the early priority on this bottom side, Joey's going to go try to make some moves. Now, I don't know if it was worthwhile in this instance. You didn't have any vision placed down. You had a little bit of damage, sure, that went on to Rosethorn, but aside from that, it might have just been a bit of wasted experience and some wasted gold here. So you got to be careful as Viper gets jumped on, the teleport coming through. Niles is aware this is going to flash over Viper. And those sword legs cannot chase down that Pantheon.
Ton of pressure put down by Pretty. Of course, he can just run right back to his mid lane post, so not a bunch that he's lost, but using that resource just to help out Viper in this lane is a really big deal. We know that this is Niles' big counterpick to Camille, so you want to make sure that the early lane goes well, and you can void that phase of the game, because once it does get to the late game and the mid game even as well, Camille is unmatched in a side lane. You're not going to be able to out-trade her or even just out-DPS her as well. The true damage on the Q precision protocol is going to be enough. So Niles wants to make a great use of this early lane, hasn't been able to do it yet.
Or catch up to her, really. The hook shot is huge. With the amount of mobility that really is just across this entire team for Immortals. As we can see, there is quite a lot here. It's a lot more situational for Golden Guardians to get that mobility. So certainly want to try to staunch this Camille from getting an early lead. And as we can see, Niles has been doing a really good job of pressuring this lane, keeping the creep very heavily in favor of himself. You can see 40 to 27 right now, thanks to the fact that Viper's gone back and not used the teleport, whereas Niles end up utilizing that to return back into lane. So TP's still available, even though Pretty used theirs. You've got 2 from Yunbi and Prismal, and the 1 still available from Viper. So 3 teleports on the side of Golden Guardians. Also something to consider. While they recognize, hey, we might not have the mobility, we have the ability to jump into these fights if necessary.
And some heavy trading up here in top. Niles just did hit level 6. Doesn't matter too much in the 1v1, but it does mean that we might see some more pressure up here from Rosethorn. You want to get Niles out of this lane so he can start ulting.
There we can see the recall. I don't know if it will actually be committed, and is going to come out of here looking for the flag and drag the hook shot as Viper decides to go back in. There it is as a teleport also comes through here. Viper and on the run. They're not going to stay here underneath the tower. It's going to be a flash away from Scout of the Week. Yubi taking some damage here. Niles is looking to get, and as comes the Hextech ultimatum on the backside, it's going to be first blood onto Yubi of Pretty. They're going to continue the fight. Viper, the flash out of... Oh, and Rosethorn uses the blast code, doesn't get over the wall though. Stood directly on top of it, only got popped up. Niles now alone with 3 members here of Immortals and will end up going down Pretty, finding a second kill for themselves in this game. In the meantime, Viper is locked down, and Rosethorn and Newbie have found him out. At least a bit of a response here in taking Viper.
Newbie has finally arrived, but Joey is the huge MVP of that play, getting a very, very early preemptive roam from him. Amazing stuff from the support of Immortals Academy, and just as you said before, he has been the guy to roam. We saw him attempt it at level 2. Why not attempt it again at level 4 and get up there to answer the counter gank? Really great stuff. They give up some pressure on this Drake, but what they've gained in this top side and wasted of the time as well of Golden Guardians is well worth it.
We can see right there in that side by side that has been a dragon picked up as well while we watch the replay here.
This is just awesome stuff from Immortals, and I believe that this is where the blast cone, as you said, happens. You just whoop.
straight up, straight back down.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you get the opportunity here, though, because Newbie is in the bush. So you have the initiation, Rosethorn, the blast cone ending up resulting in his favor, to be honest.
Yeah, and I believe Newbie was spotted on the wave, so Viper just thought that he had enough damage there, but in the end, gets caught out by a nice dredge line. As a reaction, or a prediction, rather, for Newbie, as he finds that one for himself. The kill goes over to the Nautilus, and gets to go back with some extra boots on his feet into the bottom lane, which has been going very, very well for Keith, as this counter pick has really been working. He has a huge CS advantage on this Vayne, and this is just proving that point that we made in the draft, where you still have a lot of safety. You can't really easily be killed in this lane as Vayne, and you have a ton of kill pressure over the Ziggs too with your Silver Bolts.
Not just that, too, because you got to consider you're looking at 78-56, so it has been a lot of pressure from the bottom side in favor of Immortals. To the top side, though, we got to, point out the same thing, 20 goal or 20 creep score in favor of Niles to start this one out. So a good job by Niles to stall out Viper from getting far ahead. Obviously, this does not end a Camille, because Camille has so much late game pushability and has these, the side lane pressure as well. Looks like in the meantime, too, Rosethorn is about half damage down on to Shelly right now. Niles is going to come down and try to help out, because Pretty and Anda are looking to steal this one. Viper and Joey also moving up. The teleport's going to come through, but that's going to end it. Teleport from Prismal, really not necessary there, as maybe just scaring off the side of Immortals.
Right. I think the mental game there, we're going to be outnumbered because Keith isn't quite there. He's still straggling in the river. That's probably the reason why Immortals backed away. So The teleport, not completely useless, and he gets to stay up in this top lane. They do have the Rift Herald now on a Ziggs team, which is a really big deal. You can completely take out a turret from full HP with that combination if you play the waves correctly. And you can see they are attempting to do that right now. Immortals backing away from topside. Golden Guardians are staying stalwart up there. And with this wave, they can start chunking away at this turret if they need to. But they're taking a recall instead.
Yeah, you'd think trying to at least, they have the one plate. That's going to be it. Probably a smart call, though. Keith has made the move up to the top side to try to mirror the swap that was made there by Golden Guardians. And we can see it is fully continued as Niles is towards the bottom side and Viper as well. They do not want to allow this matchup to go further away from Viper. So they're going to continuously face on these, really just replicate, I suppose, the mobility, the movement that these players are making in terms of switching sides. Taking a look at the vision, too, I gotta point out, even though Immortals had so much deep vision around that Dragon Pit, they didn't make a move on it. They had all this pressure towards the top side. They focused instead on responding to things or really trying to make plays towards the top side, and that allowed Golden Guardians to pick up that first Dragon. It's going to be really important because we talked about how much the mobility in this composition for both of these teams really adds up. So to get that very early on should prove fruitful for Golden Guardians. A nice little scatter of the week there from Yoonbi, but Pretty's got already quite a bit of survivability, sitting at 2-0-0 and has finished the merch treads. Has a little bit more sustainability and speed.
I think the huge lead right now for Pretty is such a big deal that when it comes to the side lanes, we might end up seeing that Viper will be more keen on shadowing the rise of Pretty rather than trying to get his own advantages. We are seeing he's being heavily bullied right now. Has a nice ward onto Rosethorn, but still going aggressive all the same. This might be pretty risky. Joey's here though.
Joey is here. It's going to be the blast cone taken to get those members away from the fight because they recognize that Pretty and Viper were also right there in the wings. Good communication and disconnect there. And we can see the support pings actually coming towards the top side. Right now, Prismal needing some assistance, and there the pings in response as well as Golden Guardians move up.
Guardians still just trying to make plays through the river, as Syndra and Lee Sin typically want to do, but they're not really able to find any at this time. Just moving around and playing defense, waiting for their scaling to come online. And the real only scaling they actually do have is Prismal. He's been put far behind. The other scaling not related to the champions is, as you said, these Drakes, as they've kept control over these river, and will go for another one, as long as they don't get interrupted, which very well could happen.
It could, but luckily they've got Newbie sitting here in this bush, faking the recall. It's going to be 3 members here, but they know he is there, just assuming something is happening. Out comes the Cataclysm, the teleport coming through. Rosethorn trying to come into the Dragon is taken. A nice stopwatch there from Newbie to stay alive. Rosethorn on the backside. So much damage on Anda, as well as Joey using the ultimate in response. Hextech Ultimatum comes out. Yubi and Niles are quite low, though. Joey would be the target. The Realm Warp coming through from Pretty, just Pretty, and Niles finds the double kill, taking down Anda. That's where the fight is going to disconnect.
Nicely done for Golden Guardians. It was pretty sloppy at the end of the day. Every single part of that was very scattered. But when you look at the champions the Golden Guardians have, that's what they want to do. They want to be able to burst out one person at a time. And even though they all picked different people, it ended up being okay because just how strong these champions are and how tanky this Nautilus is for Newbie. Every single resource that was spent into this Nautilus ended up being honestly almost wasted, as they do kill him in the end, but with the stopwatch as well as all of his tankiness from Aftershock, it takes way too long.
Focus on goodness. All right.
I think you were trying to say that the focus on a newbie was not spent all that well, but more support focus is coming in right now as Joey showing that he is also quite tanky, even without that big old shield on the W. He has his own shield on his W, so this is a mirror matchup in that regard. Both teams trying to stack up in the mid lane now as Prismal is he hasn't had that ease of access that we typically see from Ziggs compositions, where you're playing around him and getting him the turret plates early. I think a lot of that is just because Golden Guardians are, again, playing that defense, and they're trying to be ready for a fight before it actually happens. And because of that, Prismal has sort of been left on an island.
Nope.
A dive attempt here for Rosar. Still has that resonating strike. Can he survive the turret damage? He can't! It's a 1-for-1 in the end. Freddy does get shut down, but a 4th kill comes through for the Rise of Immortals.
Okay. I think I might have gotten it.
Okay.
All right,
Welcome
we'll
back.
find out. I guess. Thank you so much. We'll see how long it lasts. I gotta twist the cable up around my my headset, so it's gonna look real pretty when I'm back on camera. But I mean, a great fight there. It is a 1-for-1, and I talked about how much blood we're gonna be seeing in this game. We've got 9 kills at almost 16 minutes in, so not quite as much as I was expecting because of the reaction times from both of these teams. And I love how quickly these teleports are being utilized, whether it is for the mind game or whether it is for an actual help or initiation onto the team. That will be the first turret of the game in favor of Immortals. And that is going to be the first objective that actually goes over to them. If I'm not mistaken, Kelly or Shelly, as well as both of these dragons, have been picked up by Golden Guardians. So at least Immortals find themselves something.
Yeah, again, like I was saying before, usually you'd see first turret taken by the team with Rift Herald and Ziggs, but it just hasn't happened quite yet. And I think Viper getting that time alone in the side lane is really just perfect for him. We're starting to see now that despite that really large lead in the counter matchup against him for the Pantheon, it's still going to be fine for Viper now that he has that first item spike of the Divine Sunder. He can all of a sudden trade very easily with Niles. Even if he does get stunned up and bursted out for about 40% of his HP, you just, regen that back up with the Divine Sunder and go for some trades with his shield passive as well. Oh no!
Oh, it was stolen! Rosethorn just runs right in. The Sonic Wave does actually hit. Likely not going to be followed up there, and it does have the red buff available. But Rosethorn says, thank you very much for the leash. I will take that.
That was very tragic for Anda. He smited just a little bit of HP. Rosethorn just gets to smite it for himself. Another Herald pops for Golden Guardians, but still no turrets. They don't have enough damage left around in that lane. And they didn't actually save it for when the Drake is spawning either. They just know they want to get as much damage there as possible so that Prismal can just chuck a W at it whenever he feels like. But this Drake fight is the thing that's the most important for Golden Guardians, I think, in this game. If they can secure this Drake, then Immortals have to remain scared for the rest of the game that they will lose Soul.
Absolutely. It changes the priority very, very heavily, and we can see right now that they're trying to prep by pushing towards this mid side, getting some pressure here to force at least 1 to 2 members of Immortals to jump through. They're not going to make a move on it quite yet, though. It is going to be Immortals who pressure that, and it's going to be the first 2 towers here for Golden Guardians.
Yeah.
They find themselves 1 extra. So while they gave over that potential for the Dragon Soul or being at Dragon Soul point, they found a lot of pressure in the mid side.
Really cool play from Golden Guardians. They finally do use the Ziggs, Satchel, and Siege damage. I've been waiting and hoping and praying for them to do it, and Prismal finally drops a couple of them within the same minute. I love this play for that, but also just that the first Ocean Drake doesn't mean a whole lot for Immortals. Yes, it delays the soul of Golden Guardians, but the additional gold that they get for taking the inner turret as well as the outer one is going to do dividends for them as they get their item spikes a little bit earlier, and they do have a slight lead now, which they haven't had for the entire rest of the game.
Prismal saying, take that, Keith. And just stop your recall. And it's already a considerable amount of damage. Not too far behind on the creep, even considering that Prismal did not have priority for a good portion of that game. Keith ending up doing a lot of roaming, which kind of allowed for Prismal to catch back up. And that's the last thing that you want, is for this one real scaler on the side of Golden Guardians to actually get the opportunity to do that, not being shut down. And Niles is certainly helping out with that, but Pretty sitting at 4-1-1 is feeling very confident, has completed the Everfrost there, so we can see first items across the board completed, aside from, of course, the supports. Divine Sunder, you got the Gore Drinker there for Jarvan, which I absolutely love, that new current meta, and as well as finishing boots very, very early on. I think it's very important that this has become an early start for a lot of these players. A lot of it just has to do with survivability. It's not even necessarily the mobility, but the amount of either, you know, magic resist or armor that you are able to get early on from a cheaper item like finished boots has been pivotal for the early part of the game.
Can sometimes catch people off guard with the Gore Drinker, and especially on a jungler too. You can use the Smite sometimes on a camp that's near the fight that you're taking place, and you get the extra burst of healing too. So gives
Stay alive forever.
Yeah, exactly. You get some extra tankiness that otherwise wasn't there. So I like that as well. So we're getting around the point of the game where I'm expecting Pretty to have a full entourage around him while he is pushing. Doesn't have it quite yet, but that's because the rest of Golden Guardians are showing on the map. You can see that they're stacking up in mid lane, and you don't have to worry about that quite yet. But with this gigantic lead for Pretty, he doesn't have a shutdown bounty over his head, so it's slightly less valuable to kill him. But you do expect that he is going to deal the most damage in an AoE fashion, because when you look across the board, there isn't really a lot of AoE damage that Immortals have in their composition. You got a lot of side lane threat in Viper and in Keith, really, is a unique facet of Vayne as a marksman. So Pretty is going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting in the team fights, and you want to get him as many resources as possible, as they've already done. He did just hit 2 items.
And look at that, Golden Guardians not only going to find the 2 towers in the middle while that dragon was being taken by Immortals, but they managed to pick up both the first bottom tower and first tier top tower as well. It's going to be a nice lockdown, though, by Pretty on a Rosethorn, taking a lot of damage. Bomb coming out. Niall's going to have to use the W and a nice little satchel charge there to shove back and Joy, but and Pretty are looking for something. They find the Cataclysm, and it's going to be Newbie who gets stuck in as the flash out from Niall's comes through. A lot of damage right there for Pretty. He's going to use a beautifully timed stopwatch. Flash out just in time, but you can't flash away from the Syndra ultimate. A flag and drag in, and it's going to take a lot of damage from Viper. TP's directly into his death. A double kill going over to Prismal.
We're seeing now the fruits of Golden Guardian's labor in taking all of these turrets. Previously, they had given over such huge leads in just the laning to Immortals, and they didn't make their lane counters work as well as they would have liked to. But by taking all this gold across the map, as you said, they now have 4 turrets. They all of a sudden have their item spikes online. They all have their mythics. Even Prismal has a Void Staff online, and the fights become that much easier. Not to mention the range advantage that we're seeing. Once Anda dove in with the Cataclysm, nobody could actually reach the members that he was locking down after that. You saw Keith did land his Condemned, but he wasn't in auto attack range after that while they were in the Cataclysm because of the wall blocking his way, as we're going to see in this fight again.
Yeah, and not only that, you did have the flash that came through as well. Niall's getting out immediately, so when Newbie's the only one that's locked up in the Cataclysm, it's not really the best time to initiate with such a tanky player. And then we just saw how much damage Pretty had here. The attempt at a flash away, it was pretty. You got to consider that it was pretty, but Yunbi just being able to throw out the absolute power there.
Yeah. That was actually really cool interaction for Rosethorn too. He got the kickoff onto the Jarvan who was flying away, and it caused him to knock up his own teammates because he's technically still in the Dragon's Rage kick. Really interesting sort of interaction there with the momentum cancel. Ended up being not very favorable for Anda and the team for Immortals. We are now onto the Drake.
This is something that Golden Guardians now wants to prioritize. There it is, Grand Skyfall coming through. It's going to be Joey who gets hit by the Showstopper. Constantly rooted up here. Hey, Maker going to get a lot of damage. Oh my goodness, the scatter of the week. Out comes a beautiful ultimate as well from Viper, but it's not going to be enough. A triple kill, the Realm Warp necessary for the rest of Immortals to get out. That also puts Golden Guardians onto Soul Point.
These team fights are going to get easier and easier for Golden Guardians with Prismal on this Ziggs. A triple kill for him in this one. And now that's a 3rd Drake. He can send these minions down the mid lane and likely get this inhibitor turret with all that damage that Ziggs provides. Drops the satchel on him early, instantly pops that one. And Yuffie doesn't even have to take part because of all that damage that Ziggs has. They can take out another turret in the top lane. They can take out another inhibitor, more structures. And look at this. Even bot lane Niles is getting in on the action. They're taking away so much gold that is just standing around on the map waiting for Golden Guardians to snatch it up.
And Golden Guardians, you could tell, said, hey, yeah, you've got Camille, you might have Rise, you might have Keith on this vein, but we can split push too. And it's the wave clears are huge right now. That is going to be, you know, the Baron buff utilized incredibly well on top of it. So Golden Guardians, they're taking what normally could be small victories and turning them into massive ones while we watch that replay one more time.
I just want to take stock of who actually attempted to get onto Prismal in this fight. I want us to take a look at this one, because Joey did get his ultimate off. He canceled out the momentum with the Pantheon engage, but Prismal just gets to free fire this entire time. A great satchel gets him some distance between Joey and himself, and then this scatter as well. So many peeling tools are used so effectively for every single member of Golden Guardians. They know exactly who they need to keep alive, and Prismal knows exactly how to deal as much damage as possible. He now has 3 items, Jolly. How are you going to outdamage this guy?
I mean, it's really tough. You got no deaths on top of it for this player, and a lot of pressure now getting into the later game. We talked about the scaling ability on Immortals, how it's so much more than Golden Guardians, but the one big scaler that we'd be looking at would be Prismal here. And that, while it was a slow start in the bottom lane, 5-0-2, a 700 gold bounty, and how quickly did this gold lead really take off here for Golden Guardians is another thing. It was so close, really just 1 to 2,000, and all it took was a couple of fights, and the amount of pressure that Golden Guardians is able to turn successful fights into. Like I said, when they gain something, they're going to take everything to the absolute nth degree and steal whatever they can, and Immortals just hasn't been able to respond to it quickly enough. Now they're going to pressure in and try to break open the base from another angle. They can, oh, so much damage, not even necessary for Prismal to throw out the satchel on that.
Yeah, nobody's even trying to defend this for Immortals. They were not prepared for this siege to come through. Rather shocking, as there were so many members of Golden Guardians in this bottom lane, but the response just was not there. Another inhibitor falls, and Immortals just have to stay turtled in their base. We already mentioned just how difficult it is for them to clear these waves. They have only single target damage apart from Pretty's Rise, and he can't be everywhere at once. If the minions are all in one spot and they can turtle underneath the Nexus turrets, then maybe he's going to be effective to do that. But he has to just walk around between these 2 lanes now of mid and bot lane to clear this out if they are going to do this effectively and try to gain some ounce of pressure. And it's a very tall order. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to even get out of their base when this break starts.
Oh my goodness, that was actually pretty flashing away. Gonna get jumped on here by Niles. A nice pass in there and a root onto Anna, who cannot get out even with the flag and drag. A beautiful condemn onto Joey into the corner here, followed up by a face breaker, but that's not gonna keep you alive even through the shielding on the Haymaker. We've got TP as well coming through into the base. A beautiful scout of the week once more as Keith takes a lot of damage from Prismal with that fantastic TP. Is gonna find the one pretty activates. Oh no, pretty activates the realm board, but has to walk right away for it. Is going to be a clean ace for Golden Guardians, which spells the end of the game. Game number 1 in this best of 5 for Golden Guardians Academy. IMT not feeling great in this first one, but they do have side selection going into game number 2.
What a hysterical flank from Prismal. You just see a Ziggs running at you from your own base. I love the creativity there from the bot laner of this squad, and yeah, they just closed that one out so well, making me eat my words too. I was wondering when they would start taking down these turrets with the Ziggs, and I was like, well, you probably should have done it already. They know when their time is. They know they can be patient. They know that they can wait around and use the Ziggs damage whenever they require it, and just a one fell sweep. You mentioned just how fast the gold completely fell out of Immortals' hands. It's because of the way that they played around the Ziggs. It's going to be banned in game 2.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the expectation was that it would be banned early on, but also the fact that nobody was able to take a tower while plates were up allowed a little bit of leeway there for the Ziggs. There wasn't so much pressure of, oh no, we need to get towers in response. They're getting too much gold from these plates. That wasn't the case. The first tower was taken down after the plates went down, so I think at that point they're like, all right, cool. We've allowed enough pressure and priority in some of these lanes that Immortals hasn't really been able to utilize the priority that they had, especially towards the bottom side, which is where they got the first tower of the game. But that's where it ended. After that, these fights were just completely controlled by Golden Guardians. And I can say it over and over again, but it's so impressive to watch just how much Golden Guardians can turn successful fights into almost, winning the game overall.
I think the big thing that Immortals has to figure out is, one, if they are banning the SIGs, I think it probably should. And two, if they can put some more range into their composition so that these team fights are slightly easier. I think they had the engage range, but the damage range wasn't there, especially from Keith's Vayne. I think that was a pick that he made work very well in the lane, but couldn't effectively play in those team fights as well as you'd hope.
And the crowd control certainly going in favor of Golden Guardians, but we are going to take a very quick break going into game number 2. We're going to pop back after the break over to the analyst desk, let them break down that awesome game number 1, and then hop right into pick bans for number 2. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Immortals Academy and Golden Guardians Academy.